Here in Moldova, I live in a village called Piatra, located in the rayon of Orhei. It's a small place, and it doesn't have any special stores or special businesses. It's a community that relies on a farming economy. And there isn't any road that runs through Piatra to anywhere else. Piatra just sits on an offshoot road from the main highway from the rayon center. And often I can see horse-drawn wagons, which are called karutsas, more often on the streets of my village than I see cars. And if I wanted to leave the village, of course, I would have to take the Rutiera to Orhei. The bus station in Piatra is a cement slab with 2 wooden benches and a tin roof overhead. And one day I was waiting at the station for the Rutiera. Now, I know you all heard that joke about Rutieras. How many people can you put into a Rutiera? And of course, the answer that is truer than funny is always one more. In fact, I've never seen anybody left by the curb, and I've become very close friends with many Moldovan strangers on the Rutiera. But the dependence on public transportation really shows it because many times the capacity of the vehicle is doubled by the number of standees in the vehicle. And this is something very different to Americans. This isn't something that we experience at home. In fact, we often say, let's jump in the car to go down to the corner. So that's quite a different experience. Get my notes out here. So there I was, waiting for the Rutiera, hoping that I would get a seat. And I saw this old man passing by, and I said, Bună dimineața. And of course, that's customary in the village, because we say Bună dimineața to everybody we meet. In fact, the children are taught to say it to adults first. And it's too bad that we lose this common courtesy when we move to the next level of community living in the rayon center. So I said, Bună dimineața. And of course, you should understand that at different times of day, Bună dimineața changes. You could say Bună dimineața in the morning until about 8 or 9 is appropriate. And then in the evening, after 6, you could say Bună seara. Some people tend to say Sera Bună, and I've been so confused about the difference between those. But the main thing is that we took time to greet each other and recognize each other. So there I was, waiting for the Rutiera, and I saw this older gentleman passing by, and I said, Bună ziua. And he says Bună ziua to me, and he walks up a little bit closer, and he said, De unde ești? Meaning, where are you from? And I said, eu sunt un voluntar de Corpul Pace din America. And this kind of left a blank look on his face. So he thought about that a minute, and he said, what do you do? And that's where I'm always stuck, where I'm in the COD program. You know, what do I do? Well, should I go into explaining what being a volunteer is, or should I talk about community development? How much time do we have before the Rutiera comes? Actually, volunteering is something rather new here in Moldova. Back in the Soviet times, there were volunteer assignments, but that was something a little different. Now that the Republic of Moldova is a democracy, and it's operating with a free market economy, people are very busy with their energies trying to earn enough money or to grow enough food in order to survive. And so when you are trying to encourage volunteerism, it's kind of a little tough in this environment. But that doesn't mean that Moldovans aren't rich in kindness, because we Peace Corps volunteers have experienced their generous hospitality at every turn. So what do I do? Should I talk about community development? That's something that one hears on the news quite often, especially government agencies are speaking about it. But who knows what that's going to look like. So instead of getting into these more complicated the answers, I took the shortcut answer, which is "Eu sunt un pensionar," which he understood, like we say in America, "I'm retired." So he said, "I am too." "What year were you born?" Which is how Moldovans ask about how old you are. I said 1947. He said, "Shio," and he gave me this big Moldovan hug. And as I felt his rough beard on my cheeks, I said, "Now I know what being an ambassador of peace and friendship means." And what was amazing to me was how we got there. Basically, we began to understand that we had more in common than we thought. And so let me go back to the beginning of the story. I was talking about this gentleman as an old man. Now that I know him better, I know that there were two old men at the bus stop. At least we were born at the same year. No, let me change it. I'll go back to the beginning and I'll say, as I was waiting for the Rutiera, I saw a friend go by. That's right. Next time I greet him, Bună ziua, I will greet him as a friend. And Peace Corps is trying to encourage us to integrate into our communities, into our workplaces. And I think at this point, I was starting to understand what that meant. Really, it's us recognizing that we have more in common than not in common. And that's really the primary thing that we all have to keep focused on. Thank you.